Welcome to tonight's story, a gentle tale crafted to help you slow down, let go of the day, and drift into a deep, peaceful sleep. As you settle in and close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath in. And as you exhale, imagine the sound of soft rain pattering against a quiet hospital window, a place where one person's patience would change everything. Tonight, we'll journey through a story of kindness, quiet strength, and the small acts that grow into something beautiful. Let your mind rest, and let your heart listen to the patient who changed everything. In room 3B of St. Jude's Community Hospital, a place that often hummed with the urgent symphony of beeps, rushed footsteps, and worried whispers, there was a pocket of stillness. This stillness was centered around Mira. She wasn't a long-term patient, just recovering from a minor surgery, but in the short time she was there, she had become a quiet anchor in the ward's gentle storm. Mira had soft, silver-streaked hair that framed a face etched with the fine lines of a life well lived, a life filled with laughter and listening. Her eyes, the color of warm honey, held a deep, unwavering calm. While other patients might sigh with impatience or call out for a nurse, Mira simply observed. She noticed the way the morning light painted a golden stripe across the polished linoleum floor. She saw the flicker of exhaustion in Nurse Emily's eyes as she started her 12-hour shift, and the tight set of Dr. Aris's jaw as he reviewed his charts, the weight of his responsibilities a visible cloak upon his shoulders. The man in the bed next to her, Mr. Henderson, was a chronic complainer. His toast was always too cold, his blanket never quite right. The nurses, though professional, would brace themselves before entering his corner of the room. But Mira didn't hear complaints. She heard fear. She heard a man who felt powerless and was trying to reclaim some small measure of control. One morning, as Mr. Henderson began a familiar grumble about the blandness of his oatmeal, Mira spoke, her voice as soft as a whisper. "The sun is hitting that little water glass on your table just right, Mr. Henderson. It's making a tiny rainbow on your blanket." He stopped, mid-complaint. He squinted, and sure enough, a small prism of color danced on the white fabric. A flicker of something other than annoyance crossed his face. "Huh," he grunted. "So it is." It was a small moment, easily missed, but it was a seed of connection planted in sterile ground. Mira's quiet kindness began to weave an invisible thread through the ward. She would ask Nurse Emily not about her own pain, but about the small birds she saw building a nest in the tree outside the window. She would thank the cleaning staff for making the room feel so fresh, her genuine appreciation a rare balm for their often unseen work. When Dr. Aris made his rounds, his voice clipped and efficient, Mira would look him in the eye and say, "You seem to be carrying a heavy load today, doctor. I hope you find a moment of peace." The first time she said it, he was taken aback, unsure how to respond to such personal, gentle observation. He simply nodded and moved on, but her words stayed with him. He started to notice how the tension in the ward seemed to dissolve slightly whenever he was near Mira's bed. The other patients seemed to take their cue from her, their calls a little less demanding, their faces a little less strained. One afternoon, Mira watched from her window as a small, neglected garden courtyard sat empty. It had a single, weather-beaten blue bench and a few tired rose bushes. An idea, simple and pure, bloomed in her mind. During Dr. Aris's rounds that evening, she made her gentle suggestion. "Doctor," she began, her voice calm and steady, "I was looking at the garden. It seems a lonely place. I wonder, what if we had a garden hour, just for a little while each day? A time for anyone who is able to sit outside, feel the sun, and just breathe." Dr. Aris was about to dismiss it. It was impractical. There were staffing issues, safety protocols, a dozen reasons why it couldn't work. But he looked at Mira, at the unwavering hope in her eyes, and he thought of the decreasing tension in the ward. He thought of Mr. Henderson, who had actually complimented the kitchen on his soup the day before. He saw Nurse Emily smiling, a genuine, unforced smile as she chatted with Mira. "I will see what I can do," he said, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope instead of just responsibility. It took some convincing, but the hospital administration, swayed by Dr. Aris's passionate, uncharacteristic plea, agreed to a trial run. The first garden hour was a tentative affair. Just 2 nurses, Mira in a wheelchair, and a hesitant Mr. Henderson, who claimed the air was probably full of pollen. But as they sat on that blue bench, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The distant city noise seemed to fade away. Mira closed her eyes, a peaceful smile on her face. Mr. Henderson, after a few minutes of fidgeting, fell silent. He just watched a butterfly dance over a struggling rosebush. For 10 minutes, there were no beeps, no charts, no complaints. There was only the sun, the breeze, and a shared, unspoken peace. The effect was not immediate, but it was undeniable. The garden hour became a cherished ritual. More patients, those who were able, joined in. Nurses would take their short breaks there, their shoulders visibly relaxing. Dr. Aris made a point to walk through the garden at least once a day, not as a doctor, but just as a man taking a breath. A ripple of change spread through the hospital. With staff feeling less stressed and more connected, mistakes decreased. With patients feeling more at peace and less isolated, their bodies responded. They seemed to heal faster. The atmosphere of the entire ward shifted from one of clinical anxiety to one of communal healing. The blue bench in the garden became a symbol. It was where a young patient taught an older one how to use a new app to talk to his grandchildren. It was where Nurse Emily sat and cried quietly after a difficult shift, only to have another patient sit beside her in silent solidarity. It was where Dr. Aris finally admitted to Mira that her patients had reminded him why he became a doctor in the first place, not just to treat diseases, but to care for people. Mira's recovery was complete, and soon it was time for her to leave. On her last day, the entire ward, it seemed, gathered in the garden to say goodbye. Mr. Henderson, holding a small potted rosebush, handed it to her. "For your garden," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To remind you of, well, of the rainbows." Mira's stay had been short, but her legacy was a profound and lasting transformation. She taught them all that patience is not a weakness. It is a gentle, unshakable strength. She showed them how a single, quiet act of kindness, a moment of shared presence, could transform a world of stress and fear into a sanctuary of hope and healing. And as the story fades, imagine yourself in that quiet garden, sitting on the blue bench as the soft night air settles around you. Feel the peace that patience brings, the warmth of connection, the gentle strength that resides within you. You are safe, you are calm, you are healing. Good night, and may your dreams be gentle.